Good evening, I'm Jeff Koinange, and this is Jeff Koinange live at the Villa Rosa Kempinski. And you know, if it's Wednesday, it's all about Politics 101. With your indulgence, I'd like to read a bit of what Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, otherwise known as the Grand Mullah, had to say in an opinion piece in today's Daily Nation. Listen to this. Ahmed Nasir says, no country in the world has invested more time and more resources and tried as hard as Kenya to reform its judiciary. Few countries in the world have failed as spectacularly as Kenya. And then he goes on to write, we have instead been saddled with a judiciary that is rotten to the core, stinking to the high heavens, Byzantine and barbaric. Every time we think we've discovered a cure for corruption, it mutates into a more virulent and malignant form that stakes a bigger claim in our courts. And then at the very end he says, every major town in Kenya has a lawyer who is the sultan of corruption in the judiciary. So what is the future of the Kenyan judiciary? Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi concludes, doom and dollars. This past week, some damning allegations against Supreme Court Justice Philip Tunoi that he agreed to accept the bribe of $2 million, that's 200 million shillings, to rule in favor of Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero against Ferdinand Waitito. You know the story. 6 folks have been set up to rule on that. They were supposed to rule in 7 days, which was today. It's been extended to Friday. So tonight, we're going to talk about that and other issues affecting the judiciary, Kenya, the next election in 2017, because a lot of people are obviously very worried. If the Supreme Court is what it's being touted to be, then I can quote from the line in the movie Apollo 13, Houston, we have a problem. So, my guest today, every time he comes to town, and he's literally just flown in, he's the only one who can break things down tonight. I know you've waited enough for him. You've been talking about him all day long. Man has a vantage point, a lookout post, all the way in Canada. That's where he monitors events right here in Kenya. And he's back. And when he calls it, he does it without fear or favor. The man with the same name twice. And by that I don't mean Boutros Boutros or Kabando wa Kabando. Simply Miguna Miguna. He's not on Twitter or Facebook. He refuses to be. But believe me, the man is on the pulse. And we're going to use my Twitter handle at Koinange Jeff. And the hashtag we're going to use tonight, Miguna Miguna.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Kenya.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you. It's always good to talk to someone who is fearless and calls it like it is. Because at a time like this, Miguna, we're in trouble. When you saw that headline, Justice Tunoi bribed 200 million shillings, what went through your mind?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that Ahmed Nasir is right on most of the things that he has written there, but he's wrong on 2 points.
Go on.
The first point he's saying is that Kenya has tried very much. He's saying Kenya has tried probably more than any other country has to reform its judiciary. Kenya hasn't tried. Kenya hasn't actually tried. Every time Kenya purports to try, Kenya picks the most inept, the most compromised, the most cowardly, the most visionless, and the most unpatriotic, and installs them in important positions of power, and then expects or purports or pretends to expect a different result. If you select the kind of personality I have described and places him or her in a position of power and responsibility, you have to expect spectacular failure. And that's what we have gotten consistently.
That's exactly what we've got.
Kenya has never really fought corruption. Kenya has never really been interested of rooting out lethargy and incompetence. Because if Kenya was, then Tobiko would not be DPP. You see, Tobiko cannot prosecute a mosquito. Forget about a corruption baron. He can't prosecute a chicken or a mosquito. He did corporate commercial law, has never done criminal law, has never practiced criminal law, does not know how to practice criminal law. And so how do you expect him to know how to prove a case in court, a criminal case?
How did he get that position? How did he get that position?
Remember the description I've given you? It fits that description. So he's given by the power barons. He was not supposed to do anything. The DPP's office is a revolving door of lethargy, corruption, and the culture of impunity. It's a revolving door. That's what it is. Tobiko is now assumed the position of Mr. Return the File. That's what he does. He returns the file. Tobiko has also usurped the power of the National Police Force, and maybe with a tacit agreement of the police. The police are the ones with a mandate to investigate and charge people and take them to court. Then Tobiko prosecutes. Tobiko's role is not to investigate anything. He can only order investigations if the cases that have been brought to court that are now for prosecution, there are further inquiries and investigations that have to be done. But investigations is not his remit, and he cannot purport now to assume the power of the police. But you see, interestingly, the Kenyan police only cede that ground when it is a rich, fat, corrupt person. When it is a chicken thief or a bank robber or a rapist or somebody who has broken the leg of somebody, they arrest them and they take them to court. They don't take them to Tobiko for vetting.
Is that why no big name has ever been prosecuted?
Of course, because Tobiko was supposed to be their gatekeeper. They chose Tobiko. So there is no reason why we should expect anything different. The same with EACC. Have you had a prosecution office or an office, a legal office that deals with investigations and prosecutions of crimes, where the CEO, the chairperson, and the deputy are all non-lawyers? How would they be able to determine what evidence is likely to convict anyone? So of course, you would have them bring files that are incompetently investigated, deliberately incompetently investigated. It would be taken to Tobiko for the return files syndrome. Then they will go through the vicious circle. Nobody will be charged. Nobody will be taken to court. On this case, the Tunoi case.
Yes.
These people should be in court already. Tunoi should have been charged, and the prosecution should be continuing criminally. As in a parallel process, the JSC should be looking into whether or not they should institute or constitute or form a committee for purposes of removing him from the judiciary. But it shouldn't be that the police are waiting for the judiciary or the Judicial Service Commission to give them a report. The job of the Judicial Service Commission is not to investigate criminal acts. And to charge someone, you only need reasonable and probable ground to believe that a crime has been committed. And
in this case, a crime has been committed.
Yes, and you didn't even need an affidavit to determine that. And you know, the question they're asking is ridiculous. I had Justice Tunoi, I shouldn't even call him Justice, and Mr. Kidero, because I don't think he deserves to be called governor, asking, 200 million shillings cannot fit into a briefcase. Where do these people live? Who do they think we are? $2 million in 1,000 denominations, because they have $1,000 denomination notes. 10 million US dollars can fit into a briefcase I can carry briskly to the airport.
Easily.
$10 million. I just carry it like this. What are they talking about? 2 million is nothing. I can carry it in my body and nobody even suspects I'm carrying 2 million. So what are they talking about?
And the fact that they don't deny that there was a briefcase.
They are not denying there was a briefcase.
Yes.
They are saying, did he see the money in the briefcase? That's not an issue. They can use that as their defense as they are being prosecuted. We don't care about that. The most interesting thing is that Tunoi then says, at the beginning, I don't know this man, I've never spoken with him, I don't know his number, he has never called my number, and now he changes and says, I know him, I know his background, he has
tried
called
to run
me,
for office.
He has, like they know each other. Mike Njeru the same. Why was Mike Njeru, whom I know very well, and I know that the description that the gentleman gives of him is consistent with what I know of him. Mike Njeru claims, look at the ridiculous claim. I tried to help the guy, I tried to get him a job at the Kidero's office. This guy is from Washungishu. Mike Njeru is from Eastern Province.
Yes, from Embu.
And Mike Njeru works for Raila. Why was he helping this man get a job in Kidero's office? Why Kidero's office? This man is a journalist. It was not like I was helping him get a job at KTN or Standard or Nation or The People. I'm trying to get him a job in Kidero's office. So therefore, Kidero is connected to this man.
Somehow.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, Ahmed Nasir then says that Kidero approached him to represent him during the petition. And that they disagreed over fees.
Yes.
He wanted 25 million shillings. Kidero could not pay that.
Kidero said it was a little high.
Yes. Then he says, when he's challenged on that, tell Kidero that I don't charge that low. So he's just contradicted himself also. Why did he say he charged Kidero 25 million? Now he's saying it's more expensive than 25 million. And why was he representing YT2 when Kidero had already consulted him and they were already discussing fees? And the only reason he did not represent Kidero is because Kidero could not pay 25 million.
So he shouldn't have gone to YT2.
There's a conflict of interest. Kidero already disclosed confidential client information to this advocate, and he used it against Kidero in a court of law. He himself should be struck off the advocate's role. This is unethical, and it stinks like he's describing the judiciary.
To high heaven.
To high heavens. Then he also says that he knows details about the money, and in fact says it was 300 million.
Yes.
So if he knew this, and he knew this in 2014, why was he sitting on it all this time and he's supposed to be the guy, the corruption buster? So
for 2 years.
2 years.
They've been sitting on this.
So Mutunga's failed spectacularly, completely, and I'm ashamed because we are one of the people that actually wanted him to be Chief Justice. Simple things like automating the way proceedings in court are recorded in the Kenyan courts, so that it is verbatim recording and you can use that without a judge, magistrate or anybody changing the testimony and evidence in court. He has failed to do that in all these years since he became Chief Justice. Is that a very difficult thing? Why hasn't he, if he knows, he calls Kenya bandit economy,
yes,
and he says that the judiciary is rotten like Ahmed Nasir is saying, why hasn't he done anything? And he's the chairman of the JSC.
Yes, he is. He's president of the court.
And then he sits on this affidavit for 2 years. Then instead of sending it to the police for purposes of prosecution, he constitutes a committee. Now, this is governance by committee. We are sick and tired of it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Are you ashamed to be a lawyer today? Are you ashamed?
No, I'm not, because I'm not doing what they're doing. I'm not ashamed of being a lawyer. Because for anybody who has studied history, the United States of America is supposed to be the beacon of democratic practice the whole world over. And what profession made it so? The legal profession.
That's right.
All the great American presidents that reformed the system and cleaned it up
were lawyers.
Were lawyers. All the great revolutionaries, and I'm not here praising lawyers, but starting even with Castro, Mandela, a lot of visionary leaders have been lawyers. Law, fortunately for some of us, has produced some of the most transformative figures in the world. So it is unfortunate that in Kenya, the legal profession is now synonymous with rot. Correctly so.
Yeah.
When you look at their bill of costs or their so-called fee note, why would Ahmed Nasir be charging 25 million before he even knows how long the case is going to take? And in a petition, which is not really civil litigation that takes a long time, you prepare your documents, you go to court, probably sometimes examinations are done, but in this case, it was an appeal. So it's a paper review. It's just on the basis of errors that the court below made, legal errors, mainly legal errors. And it is an argument that is conducted either 1 day to 3 days. Why would you be charging 25 million?
Because he's the Grand Mullah. Miguna, let me ask you this real quick before we go to break. Now, and what court has been saying all along, the presidential election, the petition in the presidential election.
Not necessarily, because you see, it's like saying 1 plus 3 is 6. In law, every case must be determined on its own merits.
Okay.
So the only thing is that people can now speculate as to whether or not, in fact, the judiciary was compromised.
Was it compromised?
In view of the fact that the president is richer than Kidero by far, and if Kidero could give, allegedly could give 200 million Kenya shillings.
300 million.
300 million shillings, and maybe even more, because he must have given, if it is true that he gave, it is possible also that he could have given some to the lower courts, and there are other busybodies that could also have taken money. My friend, Kidero is a very funny character, and he's a character that I'm ashamed to call governor of Nairobi.
Hold that thought, Miguna, hold that thought, because I want to talk about that after the break. And also, going forward, I mean, the election is 2017, it's 18 months away.
Yeah.
What could happen if the entire, because the Supreme Court has, all of them has to be reconstituted.
They have to go home.
They have to go home.
All of them.
Each and every one.
No, each one of them. Each one of them.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And also, does Kidero resign?
Kidero should be arrested and taken to court right now. Kidero has many cases. There is Mumias. There is Shebesi he slapped that should not have been resolved civilly. That was a criminal case. Then there are cases on Ngong Road of properties that is alleged to have grabbed from some Indian family.
Yeah, by the way.
Then there is his chief of staff that was arrested.
Why
then there was the CFO in his office,
by the way,
that was found with over 1 billion shillings, and the guy earns 160,000 shillings a month.
A billion.
And yes.
A billion.
So no. And then you look at the lawyer, a man I respect, a very intelligent guy, and a friend of mine,
yes,
Ojenda.
Yes.
Billing the county 1.5 billion for 2 elementary administrative, like
mundane things.
Mickey Mouse kind of cases.
Mickey Mouse. By the way, Kidero's suing anybody who mentions his name.
Let him sue me.
Huh?
Let him start. Let him serve me right now as I leave Villarosa Kempinski. And I will be in court with him on Monday. Let him prove that what I've said is not true.
You're ready?
Of course.
Can you defend me if he calls us?
Of course, anytime, any day.
All right. Because I still have 2 million shillings somewhere.
It doesn't matter.
They haven't returned my money.
You see, this is part of getting rid of the corrupt. Let them sue. We will bring the evidence. We'll expose them. Then we remove them.
All right. And we'll take a break. Jeff Koinange live with the man with the same name twice. Miguna Miguna. I told you it was going to be a smoking show. In fact, time for some smoke. Jeff Koinange live.